And when your I-cord is long enough, unless you are putting it together as a circle, you will bind off and leave either 1 or 2 stitches left, depending on what the design requires. I will just leave 1 stitch. And now we're going to pick up stitches. So I will instead use a crochet hook. And now, when picking up stitches, the most important part is to follow a line. So you're not picking up like in a twisted way, unless you want to have that kind of design. And what you're doing then, it is that you're actually knitting through 2 legs of a stitch. So under a full stitch, like that. And then make sure that you're following the same line of stitches and just picking up stitches like this. And when there are too many stitches on your crochet hook, then you just move it to another needle. To think about here, it is, and especially if you are picking up with another color, it is that, I don't know if you can see it, but these little bumps here, those are kind of the new stitch, the wrong side of these stitches. So if I had another color, I would notice these things. So make sure that you decide which side is the right side and the wrong side, so you don't get disappointed by having some kind of different color, a contrast color in your I-cord. So picking up as many stitches as you need, and when we come to the end, especially with the design of the Huldra vest, it's important that you pick up stitches all the way to the side. Even it can be a little bit fiddly in the end, but all the way out here and an extra as well. Because I don't think it looks nice if this I-cord is like kind of pumping out. I want it to be embedded in the design. So this is how I pick up stitches from an I-cord. When you have picked up all the stitches from the I-cord, it's time to establish your pattern. And since you are by yourself designing on what should be your main pattern, I will not talk about that. But I will talk about what I call the edge stitches, or the side stitches that are around the arm, so the armholes. And there I'm using something that's called double knitting. And it's actually, you are slipping stitches instead of purling them. And it's like you are only knitting half the amount of stitches on these edges or side stitches, because that will create a more stable edge. So what you're doing it is that from the right side, I start by knitting one and then slipping one with a yarn in front. So it kind of looks like a purl stitch, but it's not a purl stitch. Knitting, slipping, knitting, and slipping. So those 6 stitches is what I have chosen for the edge stitches. You can have more or you can have less. And then I would just knit to the other side. Can you hear the wind? And then knit until I have 6 stitches left. 2, 4, 6. Like that. And here I start with slipping one with a yarn in front, knit, slip, knit, slip, knit. And when I turn the work around, I do the same thing. But now, as I was knitting this stitch from that side, do I have problems with the zoom? Yeah. I will now slip it. And then knit, slip, knit, slip, and knit. So those are the six edge stitches that I will just continue on knitting, and I will use those for the around the arms. I will use it also for the pocket and also for the hood. And if you are not making a hood and you want to have another edge stitches than those I'm going to show you later, then you can also use these. And now I have 6 stitches left. So knit, slip, knit, slip, knit, slip. So the edge stitches is actually only knitting and slipping. Like this. In my Huldra vest, I also have another version of edge stitches or side stitches. I'm not really sure what the correct name is, but I call it that. So except from those double knitted side stitches or edge stitches, we also have another one that I use around the neck. And why I use another one there, it is because I want to pick up stitches. So I'm making stitches here that looks like an I-cord, and then I will pick up stitches from this one. It's not as firm as a double stitching or the double knitted edge is a little bit, it's still firm but not as firm as that. And most important, it's easy to make to pick up in a nice way. So the way I do these, my way at least, it is from the wrong side, I either slip the first or slip the last stitches and the 2 stitches. And then I just keep on knitting. Or if I slip the last stitches. And why I do it on the wrong side, it is because it's always easier to knit than to purl. So if we skip those double knitted and just keep on knitting here, then I come here, I have those last, and then I slip with a yarn in front, like that. And when I turn around, so for the right side, I just start knitting. And as for making an I-cord, the first stitch, I tighten a little bit extra. and then keep on knitting. And when it comes to the other end, if I make these kind of stitches on the other end here, it's just to keep on knitting like that. So on the wrong side, slipping either the first two or the last two, and on this, the right side, just knit. So that's a way how you can make a nice clean edge that is stable but not so firm. It doesn't pull together that much, and it's very easy to pick up stitches from it. Increasing and decreasing is ways that you can use to shape your garment. I'm not going to show you any decreases. I refer there to just knit two together or a slip knit. But I'm going to show you a version of doing increases that I like. And as you probably know, there are many ways of making increases to increase one or more stitches. The most common one is this make one left, make one right. In my Kura sock and Vila mitten, I use the knit front back. But here I'm going to show you a version where it makes it quite invisible. And as you see, I have knitted in a different color here. It's just to make it easier for you to understand. So I will just knit the edge stitches and then one more stitch. And this way of increasing, I am using the stitch not from the round before, because that round is the one on your needle, but the round from before that, and that is here, the round with the other color. So that means that when I'm increasing, making one left, it's the same as make one left. I go down here and pick up a stitch from the round before the round before. So I'm picking up that stitch and just knit it. And that way I have made one stitch. I make it once again. So not from that round, but from below. And it's just easy to find it between that stitch and pull it out, and then just knit it. And you knit it in the back loop. And that way, and to make one right, then you do it more or less. And now I make it before I knit the stitch. So I make it from the right side of that stitch. And then I don't pick up down here, because the colored round, since I haven't knitted that stitch yet, it is like the second round. So I just pick up here and I put it on the needle and knit it, and then knit that stitch. So like this, I take from the round below, put it on and knit it. So that's a way of also making increases. And even if I now have it in a different color, it is actually very invisible increase to make it. So that was that. Now we're going to look at short rows. And if you are not familiar with short rows, this is a fantastic way of shaping your garment in a seamless way. So you don't need to cut, pick up stitches and so on, but you can do a lot of things just very seamlessly. And if you have heard about short rows and different kind of short rows, what is actually the differences in the different short rows, it is how you make the turn. Because a short row, it is, as it sounds, it's a row that you knit, but not a full row. So you make a short row and then turn and go back. And in that way, if I go back and forth here, this side will become longer than this side. So this is a short row. And the turn in a short row, that you can do in different ways. And if you have been doing this for a while, you probably have discovered your own favorite. And then you can keep on using your own favorite. I'm usually using different kind of short rows, but here I'm going to show you the wrap and turn. And I think that that is a very simple and effective way of turning your work in a short row. So now I'm going to show you how to make the turn and also how to knit when you're passing over that turn. So I'm just going to knit a little bit, passing the middle of this little swatch. So like that. And here I will decide to make a turn. And as I think with these wraps and turns, it is actually that you are taking the yarn around the next stitch. And the way I think here, it is, when I'm turning the work, I will be working purls. And when I work purls, I want to have the yarn close to me. So the yarn will be in front of the work. And that means that when I am making this wrap, I want the yarn to end up on that side that I want it to be when I'm going to work it on the other side. So that's why I do the wrap in this way. So move it, and then I have it on the correct side. And now I will just purl, and don't tighten it too much, because then it can be a little bit difficult to pick up that stitch or that wrap. So I will do this, and now I will do another turn. And when I turn now, I will be knitting. That means I will want to have the yarn on the back side, the other side. And that means that when I kind of lift that stitch and do the wrap, I want the yarn to be on this side of the work so I can start knitting. Did you get that? You probably saw it. And now I will knit until I'm here. And here you see, here we have the wrapped stitches, the wrap stitch. So what I will do now, it is that I will go under and pick up this wrap and then knit the stitch as I would have been doing. So I will knit that one and also that one. And why do I do that? It is because I want to make the turn as invisible as possible. And then I knit a few more stitches, and then I make another turn. And you know, I'm going to, like that, I'm going to purl. So I want to have it on that side when I turn it. And then I pull back until I come to the wrapped stitch. And there we have, you can usually spot it because it's a little gap. So here we have the wrap stitch. And now I'm going to purl. So I take the yarn in front of the work. And then I take this wrap from the other side, from the right side, and put it up on the needle. And then I purl these two together. And depending on what kind of short rows you are going to do, either you do a lot of short rows. Now I'm making my rows longer and longer. So that means that I'm passing over the turn all the time. But you can also make the turns shorter and shorter. That depends on what shape you want to create. And then you will go over these short rows like on the last round and make all these kind of knitting them together. So here you can see that I have a wrap. Here you see the wrap. And here you see where I have been knitting the wrap. And also here. So it's quite invisible. And you can start imagining that it is a little bump out here, because in the middle I have more rounds than I have in the side. So this is the way of shaping. So making the wrap and turn, and making sure to knit the wrap when you're passing it, so you get the invisible result. So I hope that you will, even after the Huldra, continue exploring the magic of short rows. So those are the techniques that I wanted to show you. Making the I-cord, picking up from the I-cord, and establishing the pattern with these edge stitches. Making the other version of the edge stitches, where you make an I-cord. I choose make it over 2 stitches. You can also, in another design, make it over 3 stitches if you want to. Making the increases by using a stitch from the round below. And then making the short rows and the wrap and turn technique for turning the short row. And here I have knitted these kind of triangle that I am using in the Huldra vest to shape the shoulders. So these are the different techniques that I hope will both help you to knit your Huldra vest, and hopefully that you will use also in the future for your future projects. I hope that you now have everything you need to cast on your Huldra vest. Inspiration, understanding for the construction, the different techniques. I hope that you now have chosen the yarn that you're going to use. the needles you want, and the texture or the color work or the expressions, the feeling that you want your Huldra vest to show. So, are you ready to cast on? I hope so. I know so. I know that you have everything that is needed to knit your own Huldra vest. So, believe in yourself, believe in your inner Huldra, and make her really proud.